My lord, Kratos! Another city is ready to fall! Soon all shall know the glory of Sparta!
While God of War may have simply intended to become an action-adventure game, it has clearly struck the imaginations and psyches of millions of fans.
It was excellent. It was, you know, disgusting and exciting all at the same time.
Spawning a brand legacy that rivals the biggest names in pop culture.
I said I think this game needs to be a defining game for this generation, and I truly believe it will be.
It is no longer just a series of games. It is a phenomenon.
This is one of the best things I've ever seen.
This pretty much blew everything completely out of the water.
Setting the bar for games to come, it has spawned various merchandise tie-ins, demands for a feature film version, a best-selling CD, and a rabid fan base. So, as Kratos was seeking vengeance at the summit of Mount Olympus, the God of War franchise found glory at the top of gaming history.
All right, so did you guys ever think the franchise was going to be as big as it is today? I mean, there were God of War Slurpees in that. That's pretty awesome.
I'll tell you what, when I was playing, one of the things that when we were making God of War 1, I was always going home and playing other games, and nothing was as good as what we were making at work. And not even close. We got Game of the Show at E3 that year. Like, we're gonna get Game of the Year. And this thing is gonna, like, people are gonna go bananas over this game. So, from that point forward, I think we kind of could see that the game was gonna get huge. Slurpee cups, I don't think that's something that
that
we
means
could
you
ever
made it, dude.
Exactly.
I think that what it means that there's God of War Slurpee cups is pretty awesome. The idea that the franchise has grown that big, but I kind of look at it as a mark of the apocalypse. That there's like Kratos Slurpee cups. I think that's weird.
You know, like the way I look at it though is like, when I was a kid and I saw the Superman glasses and I saw the Star Wars glasses, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, and I still have some of those glasses.
But they were glass glasses, weren't they?
Yeah,
Those
they were.
bad.
They were. But it was really special for me to be able to work on something that I could walk into 7-Eleven and buy a Slurpee, and just feel like a kid again. And it's like this is my game,
Let me just tell you, because everybody says, well, don't you wish you would have worked on God of War 2 and 3? And I don't. My answer has never changed. I'm thrilled that I moved on, and I'm thrilled with what the team did with the game. But that was the only time I was ever jealous, is when marketing sent me the picture that you guys put up there of the Slurpees, because to sort of know that something I had a hand in had sort of, was in a position to sort of, get into sort of the popular consciousness and popular culture by things like Slurpee cups. I mean, the day after those came out, my kids had a carnival at their school, and like a spring fling or something. And I mean, granted, they're little kids and they probably shouldn't have been buying Slurpee cups with Kratos on it, but I saw kids walking around, 5th, 6th graders, just like I was walking around with my Burger King glass of Boba Fett back when Empire was out, and going, oh my God, this will be a memory for them. To me, it's not the sign of the devil. I get what you're saying, but it really is, that's freaking cool. To the point that I called my Twisted Metal marketing guy and I said, look, you better get me some Twisted Metal Slurpee cups. So,
Get me on that Slurpee cup now.
I don't know if we'll get it, but I want me some Slurpee cups. So.
I think you always kind of have a feeling, especially with God of War already being established, that there's a huge fan base. And I mean, Rue and I used to work at Blizzard, so we're kind of familiar with what crazy fandom is. Yeah. But to me, that's not as kind of crazy as the little small personal interactions that I've had working on this game, where I almost got killed in a Taco Bell, I swear. I mean, yes, I was wearing one of the God of War shirts, the black ones with Kratos on it, where he's got the arms back like this. And this guy with Coke bottle glasses, and I kid you not, a Discman with an Aerosmith sticker on it.
Sweet.
I mean, a Discman. This is like this year. A Discman. He looks me up and down, and he walks over to me really creepily, and I'm like, is he gonna shank me? Like, what's going on? And he points to me, and just like this. I'm like, what is it? And he goes, this shirt. Where did you get this shirt? And I was like, whoa, okay, oh my God. And then
he sounds like a bad guy in a kung fu.
No, seriously, he had this die-hard accent. It was awesome. But I mean, so I kind of said, we work in games. I didn't even say that we were working on God of War, but he proceeds to tell me his impressions of God of War 3 and the action in God of War 3 and the ending of God of War 3, and he starts to tell me literally like a game review about God of War 3, and I didn't solicit any of it. I was scared for my life. But he held me captive for about 10 minutes, in Taco Bell telling me about God of War, and he was just a fan, So like he loves the game, and there's so many people out there who are like that. So these little stories that we have to tell about this stuff, they're so meaningful, and they stay with you. It really does give you a sense of like what you're doing touches people, even if it's only for, a few hours, it means something to them, and they really enjoy it, and they want more of it, and they appreciate what you're doing. So, it's a big thing, and I think all of us are very lucky to be a part of it as well.
So beyond me starting rumors for God of War 4, there is also rumors of a God of War movie. And if that was to ever happen, who would you guys like to see to play Kratos?
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, man.
He's in every movie now.
He's so good. He's so good.
I think some names have been thrown out actually before from Vin Diesel to her, but for me at least, just character-wise and somebody that comes closer to who Kratos is Jaimin Hansu. He's like Dave was saying just a little earlier, he's getting old, a little bit old, but at the same time, he's got that demeanor, he's got that physique, he's got the right just face there, the complexity and also the intensity actually when you look at his face, so definitely him.
I think we need to take T.C. Carson and get him on a serious roids program, because he could definitely act the part.
Yeah.
But I mean, I haven't seen anybody yet. I mean, I ask the question all the time, and there's nobody that's like, yes, that's the guy right there.
Well, I'll tell you two things. One is part of the problem is Kratos is intentionally not beautiful. When I remember sitting back there with. It was Charlie, and it may have been Ken Feldman, who's been the art director on all these. And we were doing his face on God of War 1, and it's like, every video game character is like a pretty boy. Let's break his nose a little bit, and let's kind of make him look like a real guy, and also not a guy who's 20. So to kind of find an actor who fits it. Now they exist, but they're not usually who the first people say when they think of it. But I will tell you, and I don't. There was an agent. Who I spoke with a few weeks ago, and she called me and she says, they just told me who's signed on to play Kratos. And first off, I was kind of like going, I didn't think we're still making a movie. I haven't heard anything about it for a long time. But so she, she's connected, and she says, and I won't tell you who it is, but she said, it's this guy. And I said, okay, that's all right. I mean, it's not, you don't hear it and go, that's perfect. But you're like, that's pretty freaking good, I will tell you the script went out about a year and a half ago to Daniel Craig, who plays Bond, and I thought that was pretty darn good, but he turned it down. But this new person's pretty good if that actually ends up being true. So
how could you not tell us?
I'll give you a hint. Let me give you a hint. A sequel to a movie that he starred in but hasn't appeared in any of the sequels just came out and bombed a few weeks ago. That's all I'll tell you.
Just came out where?
A few weeks ago. He starred in the original, hasn't been in any of the sequels. The last sequel just came out and crashed and burned. So that's your hint. I can't tell you who it is, but that's,
But you'll probably figure it out from that one.
Well, look at the movies that bombed.
Someone Google this right now and let me know.
Yeah. It's a little unconventional, but what about Ben Affleck?
All right, so do you guys have any advice for an aspiring game director?
Pursue a job other than game directing and luck yourself into it. That's how we all got into it. Get good at communicating verbally and through the written word with people. Conveying your ideas is a very large part of this job. If you're unable to actually communicate with people and get across what you need, not just what you don't like, but what you actually want and how to get people into that direction, then you're not going to do very good at this job. And then train yourself to not sleep.
Yeah.
Ever.
And you know what? And the other thing is you have to believe in what you're going to do and the idea that you have and the game you're going to make, but more importantly, believe in the people that are around you. The game industry is way more, I don't know how to say it, it's way more collaborative in some ways than a lot of other industries. Games are made by teams, Games are not made by individuals. We can be a director, but we're only one piece of a big puzzle. And it's not like, we're up here, but there should be like 100 people up here, doing this thing. The point is that at every step of the way during your career, always have somebody around you who will question you. It's so important because the day somebody stops questioning you or you stop asking for that questioning,
you become George Lucas.
I think one of the things I think Corey said this, is that, I mean, don't aspire just to be, I mean, or don't try to be just a game director. Aspire to be a game director and become really good at something, become really good at anything. If you're making a statue, try to, when you're making that statue, be the director of that statue when you're making it. You know, try to understand the story of what happened, who built that statue, and the story of what's going to happen to the statue after it goes in the game. And just try to be the best at any of those things that you can possibly be.
I think what you brought up was kind of a good point too, Stig, which was that, like, it's good to be something to aspire to, but it's not going to just like happen just because you want it. Like being good at what you do and then kind of expanding on that and being able to prove to people that you know what you're doing, you're good at what you do is part of it too, because then they trust you. I mean, part of making games like this, I think at this level, is like literally instilling trust in people that you're going to do the right thing for them, for yourself, for the project, you know, all around. And I think instilling that relationship with them where you guys trust each other to do the right thing, I think that's a huge, huge part about being a successful game director.
All right.
I if I may, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be contrarian, but
But you will be.
well, because well, does anybody in here want to make games, or that's just not interesting? Okay, so when I was at USC, I wanted to make movies, and Jeffrey Katzenberg, who's a big famous movie maker, was there, and they asked him the same question. They said, "What would you say to aspiring filmmakers?" And he said, anybody who actually is capable of getting into the position that they really know in their soul they want to be in, it doesn't matter what I say. And it doesn't matter what these guys say or I say, because you know, sitting in this audience, if one of you in here is actually the next one of us, or Genova, or Miyamoto, you know it doesn't matter what we tell you, because you're going to get there anyway, because that is what drives you and gets you out of bed. So when someone says, don't aspire to be a game director, I say, fuck that. I aspire to be a game director. I want to be a game director. And it's a great career, so aspire to it, because it's a lot of fucking fun.
End of the day, regardless of what we're saying, if you want it, take it.
Yep.
And if you're good at it, if you love it, people will follow you.
Yep.
There you go. I was actually kind of impressed by how many people raised their hands saying they want to make games, and I think a lot of these people are going to take your words to heart, but I also think a lot of these people probably want to ask you questions too, so we're going to open up the floor to you guys now. Where's our mic? Oh, there we are.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out here. It's kind of a two-part question. Was it intimidating making this game, first God of War, going up against titles like Devil May Cry, Legend of Zelda, and Ninja Gaiden? And the second part of that question, how satisfying was it to know that you've actually raised the bar, so now Ninja Gaiden and Devil May Cry are now looking towards God of War?
We were very aware of those games. Richard Fogey, who was up here, was one of our original combat designers. He's a great combat designer. And I remember we were playing Onimusha 2 or 3, and we were like, holy shit. We were heartbroken.
Three had come out. It's the Jean Reno one.
And I remember he said to me, I said, well, you know, I wanted to know. And I said, well, how do we compare to this? He says, well, they're like a Harley and we're like a Schwinn. You know, because this is before we really got our stuff together. Yeah. So we were very aware of those games, and I was always worried. And I, to this day, every game I see scares the crap out of me. And I think it's healthy, but it scares the crap out of me.
They were those games, and every game today is the demon that chases you.
Yes.
That tells you that you're not doing good enough. And the moment that you sort of outrun that demon completely is probably when you start making crappy Uwe Boll movies. So I think it's always there, and it's great to have because it keeps you on your toes.
I mean, look, you're doing Mad Max now. You can't not be looking at Red Dead and going, holy shit.
Everybody.
But I mean, especially in sort of that
Red Dead and Borderlands and that twisted something.
Every day I look at what is it? I look at all the games, and you know what? Also, I'm looking at Nate right there because Nate is a designer at Sony. And,
Nate Gary, ladies and gentlemen,
Nate
Gary.
Nate Gary, everybody.
He worked on God of War 2. Designing.
But you know, I listen every fucking day. I'll talk to either Adam Orth at LucasArts, or I'll talk to Nate sometimes, and I know where that bar is.
Let me pick that up for you.
And I'll look at Twisted Metal and I'll say, shit. I'm terrified every day. I don't know if on God of War 3, because you guys came out of the gate being the top of the cream of the crop, were you guys scared of anybody?
Scared shitless.
Of who? Of what?
Uncharted 2.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big game.
Yeah.
Man, when we had to go up there and close E3 that year, they were opening E3 and we were closing. I was shitting my pants. And even just seeing the stuff, Lost Planet 2 was blowing me away when I was
Yeah.
seeing the stuff in that. And then I finally played the game. I'm like, what happened? But I was so scared of that game for so long. But that's really what it is. I mean, you're scared. When
Yes.
DMC came out, we called it Game Developers May Cry. Because I remember I was an artist at the time, and I'd never seen art like that before. I had no fucking clue how they were doing it. And that was one of the most satisfying things is when we finished God of War 1 and seeing some of the reviews, it's like, yeah, we beat them. And it was a great moment.
Cool, thank you guys.
It's a good question. Very good question.
Do you have another question?
I have read somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, but God of War 2 originally was a PS3 game?
I won't really correct you, is that yes, you're right. It was going to be either a PS3 or a PS2 game. So it could have gone either way.
I was just wondering, how did that affect development?
It was actually more fun. A lot of the onus behind the decision to stay on PS2 is that we already knew all the tricks. We knew how to figure out how to do what we needed to do. So elevating above what we had already done in the first one was a little bit easier without having to start all over on a new platform with all these new tricks. But I'd like to believe that I was part of that decision, but I think the reality is I had nothing to do with it. I shouted a little bit, and then other people made the decision that are far above my pay grade.
Just briefly, because I know the team wanted PS3, and I wanted PS3, and we were all like, oh my God, this is going to be so awesome, God of War on PS3. And one of the guys, none of our bosses, and when I was at Sony, I say our bosses, but I still work with these people, don't get a lot of credit, but there's Alan Becker, and then above him, well, now there's Scott Rhodey, but Shuhei Yoshida, who some of you guys know is the head of all of first party. He was the guy who had the foresight to say, yeah, you know, we know it would be awesome on PS3, but just trust me, put it on PS2. And after he said, trust me, like he was trying to convince us, he said, you're just going to do it, you know. But ultimately, he was absolutely right because it made a crap ton of money on PS2 because there was such a huge installed base. And it was the smartest decision, even though creatively, all of us, including Shu, probably would have loved to have seen it on PS3 sooner. So.
We have time for one more question over here.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for coming out here. So I was wondering, when you hear an idea that you really, really like, what gives you the sense that it could lead to a game that could hit the mass market, could really connect with a lot of people and ultimately be successful? Or maybe what gives you the sense that it should maybe remain outside of the game?
I think the idea is simple, and that's what I thought was brilliant about God of War. And when I came and interviewed for the game, it was such a simple concept. Greek mythology on steroids. And that's it. And you've got a badass that you're playing as. And I totally got the game. And I think that the other powerful thing about that is, as a director, it becomes easier to sell the concept to everybody who's working on it as well. And potentially it's a launching board for everybody to kind of bring in new ideas, because it's something that everybody can kind of live and breathe and understand.
I don't know if there's any sort of like recipe or checklist to answer that. Like for me, it's more just like a
gut feeling.
Taking a gut feeling, you know, as Dave says, that you kind of go, all right, well, I really feel this. And honestly, your gut is wrong sometimes. That's the thing. You could be like, man, that's going to be so badass. Rygar, man, it'll be awesome. But then it doesn't turn out to be awesome, and you feel kind of silly.
Or calling all cars.
Right, calling all cars. So yeah, the tough thing is, I think in this industry as well as all other industries, it's more like you have to pave your own way. You have to define who you are and how you express yourself inside of that. So trusting yourself rather than looking outside to try and validate whether or not what you have is right, and then kind of forging forward. That doesn't mean that you don't course correct based on information of people around you, but if you have a fire about something, if you're excited about it, if you believe in it, then follow it 100%. And
be like Kratos, go get it.
Yeah.
But I think something about that though, like, you're right, you could be wrong, but I mean, if your gut tells you that and you check that with a few other people, I mean, chances are, you know, if you're jazzed about something, I think other people are going to be excited about it too, because you're probably not alone, especially if you and a few other people feel like you're really onto something that other people can relate to and get excited about. I think you'll find that a lot of people do too.
But you have to be excited and you have to protect it, because there will be a million things between the day you have the idea and the day it's sitting on the shelf that will try to sabotage it and change it. And every fucking game you'll have at least 2 or 3 people on the team who think you're wrong, and they're going to come up and they're going to fix it. And they're going to change your idea, and you got to fight that, and you got to fight marketing. And I don't mean it's like these people are on your team, you want to get behind them, but every day there's something, and though you've got to believe in it because it's gonna get popular one day and unpopular the next, and you've got to be its champion. So.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm sorry to say that is the end of our show. That's our show. I'd like to thank the directors for participating in this momentous occasion, the L. Porter Theater for this wonderful venue, and most importantly, you guys, the fans of God of War, for making a night like this even possible. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the directors behind God of War.